In this episode, we will talk about what the Amazons were like, why they were feared in the ancient world, and where to look for the tombs of these brave warriors. We'll also investigate whether the Amazons really burned one breast so it wouldn't get in the way during combat. Believe it or not, but the Amazons are not a myth. These ancient warriors really existed. And now, we'll show you. Original sources and archaeologists will help us. What did the ancient Greeks and Romans say about the Amazons? One of the first to mention them was the Greek poet Homer. In the epic, the Iliad, describes how a group of warrior women fought on the side of the Trojans. However, Achilles managed to kill the queen of the Amazons, breaking their spirit and forcing them to retreat. Among Hercules' tasks is the story of the belt of Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons. This belt was given to her by the god of war, Ares. The task of the ancient hero was to take the belt and deliver it to the daughter of the king, Eurystheus. Although the queen of the Amazons was willing to hand it over to Hercules without any bloodshed, the goddess Hera intervened. Through deception, she forced the Amazons to attack Hercules' group. According to the main version of the myth, during the battle, the queen died and Hercules obtained the belt. There are dozens of myths and their similar variations. The ancient Greeks were literally fans of the stories about the battles between the Hellenes and the Amazons, as we are of the confrontation between the Joker and Batman. The plot about the wars with the Amazons, or Amazonomachs, was one of the most popular in ancient Greek art. For example, a part of the gigantic frieze of the Temple of Apollo in Basai, it includes an entire cycle of Amazons. Let's take a closer look. Here we see an Amazon in full combat against the Greeks from Hercules' group. And this other one, who fights for the Trojans, seems to be having some trouble. A Greek grabbed her by the hair. Really? Did you forget the helmet at home? Here, we have a tragic scene. Achilles kills Penthesilea, daughter of Ares and queen of the Amazons. However, upon seeing Penthesilea fallen and without her helmet, the ruler of Hera falls in love with her. What a sad ending. And to think they would have made a beautiful couple. From the ancient artworks that have been preserved, we can judge the appearance of the Amazons. Mostly, they wore short tunics similar to Greek chitons. Sometimes they are depicted wearing Persian male outfits that hug their slender figures. They often went barefoot or wore short boots. On their heads, they wore a hood-shaped cap. All of this followed the style of the Scythian fashion. The Roman scholar and writer Pliny the Elder notes that in the creation of statues of Amazons for the temple of Ares, goddess of the house in Ephesus, the great sculptors of their time competed. This honor was not by chance. The Greek poet Callimachus wrote that the Amazons founded Ephesus in present-day Turkey and erected a statue of Ares next to a great oak. In the stories related to Alexander the Great, his encounter with the queen of the Amazons is mentioned. Talestris, in a letter to his mother, Alexander wrote that the Amazons were taller than ordinary women and stood out for their beauty and health. According to the myths, the Amazons descended from the god of war, Ares, and the nymph, Harmony. They lived by the Thermodon River near the city of Themyscira in what is now Turkey. According to another version, they lived on the shores of Meotida, that is, the Sea of Azov. To continue their lineage, the Amazons married foreigners. They would hand over the boys who were born to their parents, while they raised the girls themselves. The Amazons followed a fashion that matched their lifestyle. They wore light clothing to be agile and used typical Scythian weapons: the Scythian bow, battle axes, and light shields. The most complete description of these warrior women was left by Herodotus. He wrote that the word Amazon means without breast. According to legends, they would burn the right breast of the girls so it wouldn't get in the way when shooting the bow. However, in the representations that have survived, the Amazons do not show physical deformities. Herodotus also described that the Amazons spent most of the year riding horses, they shot arrows, threw javelins, cultivated their lands, and took care of the horses. The strongest ones hunted on horseback and trained intensely. An Amazon could only marry after killing 3 enemies. Some would reach old age single because they didn't meet this requirement. During the Scythian period, burials of women with weapons were common in southeastern Europe. Approximately 10% of the female graves belonged to warriors. Among these findings, there are rich complexes belonging to Scythian queens. However, most of the warriors belonged to the middle class. Anthropological studies indicate that the Amazons were not different from the rest of the population, Scythian. Their ages ranged from 16 to 60 years, but about half were young women. Most of the warrior graves date back to the 5th century, around the mid-4th century BC. A significant number of these tombs have been found in the steppes of the Euxine Pontus and the Sea of Azov. A significant number of these tombs have been found in the steppes of the Euxine Pontus and the Sea of Azov. In 2017, archaeologists found in Armenia the tomb of a 20-year-old young woman. She was buried about 2,500 years ago. Based on the development of her muscles, she was an archer and rode a lot on horseback. In one of the battles, she was injured in the knee, where an arrowhead became lodged. In her last battle, she received 3 wounds, one of which nearly amputated her left leg. In 2019, in the Voronezh region of Russia, archaeologists excavated a burial mound that contained the skeletons of 4 women, 2 young women, a teenager, and a lady between 45 and 50 years old. In the tomb, arrowheads, pieces of horse harnesses, spears, knives, and ritual utensils were found. The forehead of the high Amazon was adorned with a headdress made of gold plates decorated with engravings. One of the women was buried in a riding position to emphasize her belonging to a warrior caste. Archaeological data shows that the Amazons' weaponry was quite practical and suited to their lifestyle, focused on mobility and quick combat tactics. The main weapons of the Amazons were bows and arrows. The bow was the main tool of the warrior women, as it allowed them to attack effectively from a long distance. Archaeological findings confirm the presence of arrow sets of different sizes in the female graves. Their tips were usually made of bronze or iron, in line with the technologies of the time. The sets of arrows included both combat variants designed to pierce enemy defenses and lighter ones used for hunting, as well as spears or javelins. The Amazons often used throwing weapons like spears or javelins. Their advantage lay in their versatility. They could be used for both throwing and combat, close combat. The spears found in the burials sometimes had iron tips, which made them more destructive. Swords. Swords were less common. This could be due to the tactical characteristics of the Amazons. This type of weapon required close contact, while the Amazons, according to their style, preferred to keep their distance in combat. The swords found are usually short and have narrow blades, indicating that they were lightweight and suitable for use on horseback. Shields. The lightweight shields made of wood and leather are also frequently mentioned in the descriptions of ancient authors. They were compact, comfortable for protection while on horseback, didn't restrict movement, and weren't used for protection while riding, and they were easy to transport. Armor and protective gear. The Amazons hardly used heavy armor. This was due to their combat strategy, where mobility and speed were essential. However, written sources, such as myths and epics, mention war belts that could serve both a ritual and protective function. In archaeological excavations, these belts are found very rarely, which raises doubts about their actual use. Moreover, ancient authors often romanticize the images of the Amazons, describing their weaponry as more luxurious than what archaeological findings suggest. Real discoveries indicate that the Amazons preferred effective and practical weapons suitable for their lifestyle and military strategy. As you can see, it can be stated with certainty that the Amazons are not a myth. We still know little about them, but the fact of their existence cannot be denied.